Before Toy Story 4 was released and became Pixar's 21st movie, I made a video ranking all of Pixar's movies worst to best. Now I'm looking specifically at the Toy Story franchise, so let's see which one's worse, Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 versus 4. This is how I rank the original 3, and that ranking has stayed the same since I looked at every Pixar movie. But if these 3 movies are here, Toy Story 4 is all the way down here. So quick recap of my thoughts about each movie. Toy Story. Truly groundbreaking and iconic. It's amazing, especially when acknowledging its significance in film history. Toy Story 2. One of the most perfect film sequels I've ever seen. It grows the characters, introduces new characters who fit in so well with the rest, and smoothly transitions from scene to scene thanks to a strong, thought-provoking conflict. And Toy Story 3, an incredibly fun film I love to watch because I love seeing these characters interact with each other. However, the ending totally ruins everything they had established in the previous films.
It'll be fun while it lasts.
I'm proud of you, cowboy.
Besides, when it all ends, I'll have old Buzz Lightyear to keep me company. For infinity and beyond.
Well, whatever happens, at least we'll all be together.
For infinity and beyond.
But the thing that makes Woody special is he'll never give up on you. Ever. He'll be there for you, no matter what.
I was in for a seriously rude awakening though with Toy Story 4, a movie that took everything that was holy in the first 3 and blew it to smithereens. After seeing where the third movie leaves the toys, it really emphasizes how perfect of an ending the second one has. That's where my cutoff is. Anything past Toy Story 2 isn't canon for me. So which one's worse? Well, I'm sure that summary helps you see that it's clearly Toy Story 4. But let's start breaking it down, which is actually pretty easy because there is one ginormous problem that infects the entire movie, and that's the fact that none of the characters act like themselves. In the first 3 films, a couple if not more of the characters get separated, both parties deal with different conflicts, but they come back together even stronger because they learned important things about life for themselves along the way. That's how a film that capitalizes so much on family and sticking together is supposed to work. Not to mention, more than half of the characters everyone has grown to love so much aren't even in the movie. They each get maybe a couple lines at most to tickle everyone's nostalgia and remind you that they still exist, but that's it. They all get one personality trait to represent, and that's all they get to do. This movie features the most toys too, from the original crew to Bonnie's toys to all of these new guys, and yet none of them are focused on or given the chance to grow. The most offensive personality snub is Buzz. I can't give him credit for doing anything important in this movie because the entire time he's not even consciously making his own decisions. He's stupidly listening to his inner voice, which is a feature he didn't have until this movie. How he got programmed with all of these new sayings is a mystery. This guy went through an identity crisis in the first movie, traveled miles to save his friend in the sequel, was brainwashed in the third, and they couldn't have him do anything cool? They couldn't even show him sharing any real compassionate moments with his friends. I can't put any explanation as to why this decision was made besides add some comedy, but Buzz was never just a cheap comedy throwaway character. But if you think having a character be stripped of their personality is bad, let's take a look at one of the most offensive personality changes a movie has made its character go through. I don't even feel comfortable in saying Woody is my favorite Pixar character anymore because of the decision he makes at the end. I don't want to get ahead of myself though, so let's take a look at what pushes Woody to make this decision, which is really easy to do because there is nothing. In Toy Story 2 and 3, which both set up some legit dilemmas for Woody to ultimately decide between, there's a moment where not only the characters but the audience are convinced that this new option is a good idea. Jessie tells Woody her story, and the prospector makes him question his future in the second film. In the third film, Lotso sells Sunnyside as the greatest place ever. They even show how great life there is in the credits. You can side with Woody or side with everyone else because they sell it as the best thing the toys can do. We never get any moment like that in the fourth one. The only thing I guess they thought they did were some casual comments here and there and these pretty lamps. But that's not enough to justify your main character acting so drastically different. You can't introduce something this drastic without telling us how it makes sense for the character because the only thing I picked up on is a hose before bros lesson. This lesson is totally out of place for the Toy Story franchise, but they try to start us off with that notion in this movie. Woody and Bo's relationship in the first 2 films is played out like a cute fling. Still, they all of a sudden try to make it seem like Bo has single-handedly been the most important thing in Woody's life. Because, you know, when struggling to get back from all of these stressful places, Woody mentions missing Bo the whole time and not Andy. The beginning scene essentially has him choosing between the two. This time his love for Andy wins out. Although if they were trying to say that Woody was serious about going with her then, but Andy calling out to him made him feel pressured or whatever, then I hate this movie and Pixar more than I thought I did. That would mean Woody has been selfish since this day. To think he would walk out on his friends and the kid who he'd been with since birth is beyond disgusting. But I'm making it canon that Woody's love for Andy wins out. However, at the end, Woody's love for Bo wins out, which means it's stronger than the love he has for his friends, even though they never made the relationship out to be that serious. They spent a lot of time together, but Woody also spent his entire life with Slinky or Rex, yet he didn't want to stick around for them. If they had established that Woody just really liked the idea of being a lost toy, then that would be one thing, but the main thing we see him be happy about at the end is being with Bo. Their love is also clearly stronger than his love for Bonnie. So with that in mind, let's Let's remember that it was Woody who signed everyone up to live with her. Why would he do that? I'll tell you why, because Woody is a selfish pig. He had one fun playtime at her house and decided she was alright. The rest of the toys didn't get her meter though until Woody signed their life away. Why couldn't he just let them stay in the attic and live out their lives with Andy? They seemed to establish that Woody had a feeling from the beginning that he would never love another kid as much as him, so why couldn't he have just let them be? Even staying in Sunnyside would have been a way better option. Now the toys have to deal with Bonnie growing up and possibly getting rid of them again. Don't worry, Woody, you have fun running around with Bo while the rest of the gang develops some more abandonment issues. Woody gives up his voice box as a way to shove in some proof that he's selfless, but because he's the entire opposite for the rest of the movie, this is totally out of place. The entire subplot with Gabby feeling like she's not worthy of love if she doesn't fix this one thing about herself is pretty messed up. How does she deserve Woody's help when she tries to rip him apart by ganging up on him, and when she continues to not get her way, she blackmails him? When we see what happens with her and the kid she wanted to be with, it gets across a really terrible lesson about how she did have to change herself, otherwise she wouldn't have been worthy. If they wanted to show it's what's on the inside that counts, then she wouldn't have used her voice box to get this other girl's attention. And this scene just gets across another problem with Woody. He still clearly sees the importance of being there for a kid. He travels all this way, gets injured, and fights his way back to the RV, but he still chooses to leave Bonnie at the end. He struggled through this entire movie and he has nothing to show for it. Besides being a selfish jerk, the other problems Woody deals with in this movie we've seen him deal with before. He feels neglected, he questions his self-worth, he's jealous of another toy. Basically every problem from the first 3 films are in this. But he successfully got through all of that already. He learned from his mistakes and wrong behavior, so making him feel these things again and this time choosing to run away from all those problems instead of continuing to deal with it goes against everything he used to stand for and promotes a pretty terrible lesson. So in case you couldn't tell, I think this movie is pretty gross. Visually though, Toy Story 4 looks great. I think the new toys are interesting and have some fun designs, but they're just accessories to a story about Woody and his extreme selfishness. The best way to fix Toy Story 4 is to erase it from existence. I know I had a problem with the ending to Toy Story 3, but it at least left enough to the viewer's imagination. It's good to see they're together and can keep in contact with each other. However, the 4th one doesn't establish a happy future for everyone at the end. They're separated, there doesn't seem to be a clear way for Woody to message his friends or even see them in the future, and if Bonnie so easily fell out of love with the toys she liked the most in the last movie, who's to say these other guys won't eventually get donated or run away? I can't even say this is mindless fun for a Toy Story fan or young kid because it's manipulative. It destroys the strong principles they had established all these years ago and doesn't even bring together everyone's favorite characters for one last adventure. Toy Story 4 ruined my childhood and my life.